we're back with the PCC Multiverse. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here. Thanks so much for watching and listening. It's truly appreciated. Cannot thank enough everybody out there that watches and listens. And if you can, please help us out right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Go ahead and like us, subscribe to us, follow us, do it anything you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, The Lakers Fast Break, The Happy Hoarder, Humanican Media, Vampires and Vitae, Wild Beyond the Witchlight with Wizards and Wine, everything that we do in regards to pop culture, the latest news and trends in pop culture, and also, of course, the tabletop RPG action. We truly appreciate you doing anything you can to support us today at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse or a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend indeed, Melinda here. She is going to be going ahead and popping on hopefully in the near future, maybe on Monday's show. But I wanted to go ahead and pop in a familiar face to the Pop Culture Cosmos scene. My good friend indeed. He is the man that started the Pop Culture Cosmos with me in 2016. And all those years later, he's come back after many, many episodes away. He is back, in the good graces of the Pop Culture Cosmos, back in the routine again. It is my good friend indeed. He is the man behind the Happy Hoarder. You got to go ahead and check him out today, wherever you get your happy hoardness, at the Happy Hoarder on social media and also the Happy Hoarder website. It is Josh the Legend 16, Josh Peterson, and Josh, it's the Friday show, man. Good to have
It
you here,
is.
my friend.
It is. I haven't been on this for a long time. Also, I'm not just the man behind the Happy Hoarder. Currently, I'm the man in front of the Happy Hoarder. If you look behind me, it's a lot of Happy Hoarder stuff over there.
That's true. And you just said you were on Whatnot, did a show there. So people can
Yes.
check that out. I'm so happy for you, man. You're moving and grooving when it comes to that. So I'm looking forward to seeing more and more and more of the stuff that you've got going on with the Happy Hoarder. But please, again, support the Happy Hoarder today. A lot of great stuff, a lot of great collectibles. And if you've got someone in your life that loves a lot of great pop culture stuff, there's no better place to get it from than the Happy Hoarder indeed. But we've got a great show lined up for you. Got a lot of things to talk about on today's program. Stuff that's coming out this weekend as far as games. Why did the Flash disappoint? Nintendo stuff. Telling you, man, it never stops here as far as pop culture. But let's start off with the Flash. I want to go ahead because that's been a flashpoint of conversation, my friend, when it comes to why the Flash disappointed. Also, Elemental from Pixar as well. But both last weekend had terribly disappointing results on a worldwide basis and also domestically here in the US. I know all the fingers are starting to be pointed at why this went wrong from the head of Warner Brothers himself, David Zaslav, who I guess was not there originally when this movie was being made, but championed it and sported it and provided a lot of advertising for it, but unfortunately wasn't enough, to Ezra Miller and their involvement in some, I guess what we've been talking about over the past few months about all the allegations and the things that they have been in court for as far as all the problems that they've created off camera. So I'll ask you, my friend, you've seen The Flash. You've experienced The Flash as a kind of like Flashpoint. I said, and first off, I think it came at a very weird time in the DC universe. I thought it should have come out 2 years from now and not now, because it doesn't really do much right now for anyone. But your thoughts on The Flash and why it disappointed at the box office?
It's weird because I hadn't actually, until today, I hadn't heard that it was disappointing. Because I went and I enjoyed it. It was a good popcorn flick. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't like my favorite superhero movie, but I did enjoy it. My kids enjoyed it. Um, it's funny because coming out of it, I thought to myself, I could see like why people wouldn't go see this movie. It doesn't really have anything to do with Ezra Miller. I think that's kind of it's kind of a cop out right now. For they're like, oh wait, let's see what the movie does, and if it does bad, then we'll blame it on Ezra Miller. But if it does well, then Ezra Miller will be back in the good graces.
I can tell you that a lot of people were not going to go see the film because of the controversies and the off-court, I guess, legal incidents that Ezra Miller was a part of that took place that you and I have even talked about on this show way back when.
Right, right. But like I see that kind of thing, like I don't know, I don't feel like it would stop true fans of the DCU from going to see that. I think it was more in the hands of James Gunn, and him moving on to this new DC platform and making these last films like Shazam, I think suffered greatly from this, making these last three DCU films feel irrelevant in the wake of this coming Colossus.
Absolutely. When you've already talked about your plans for the future already and outlined it in detail, and it looks like already that you've segmented a good part of what's upcoming in the next couple years for something that's already about like on a legacy or something, or they're already supposed to be irrelevant on arrival or less
Right.
irrelevant on arrival than what they would have been or when they what they were going to be when they were made, makes it so that it doesn't need to watch. And I've said this before to you, it's like, what importance, what reason do I have to go ahead and go out to theaters and see the
Right.
Flash? Why is it important or meaningful to me at this point in time if you're already going to go ahead and create an all new basis for the DC universe?
Right, and I think that so this movie, from what I understand, like, it went through so many cuts and reshots trying to shape it into, what is essentially going to be the future of the DC universe on film, and from it sounds like the movie that could have been is a lot better than the movie that was. Especially talking about the, uh arrival of Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing Batman's dad, the Henry Cavill cameos in there. That
I
all sounded like it could have been really great, but this movie suffered from the same thing that some of the Marvel movies suffer from, is like trying to set up for the next big thing.
I think it's so funny though. Still, I think you and I talked about this about how like you said, he played Thomas Wayne and Laurie Cohen, his co-star on The Walking Dead, now play the debut episode of Dead City. Debuted to some decent numbers for them on AMC this past weekend. Those two, I think it was a troll on Walking Dead fans originally why they were actually included in that Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne segment so long ago in the Snyderverse. I just thought that was a troll on the Walking Dead fans originally.
Oh,
I know I'm going off a
absolutely.
tangent. I just thought
No,
I'm just
I agree. They were probably pretty excited about that.
yeah. If I ever get a chance to interview them, that's exactly what I'm going to ask them. I'm going to say, was that a troll? Come on. It's not like you two didn't know that you were going to go ahead and be part of the Snyderverse. Yeah, come on. But
Yeah.
need I digress on that? I will say though that again, the Flash. This is a movie that, like you said, with the reshoots and all the costs that are involved, looks like a movie that might have cost as much as $300 million. So to get less than half of that on a worldwide basis after its first weekend has got to be truly disappointing for Warner Brothers.
Yeah. So I don't I don't regret my time watching it. Like, it did have some really cool things in it. It had some funny jokes, but then you get to the end of the movie and you see that they are in fact trying very hard to set things up. Like the end credit scene basically, I won't go into too many spoilers, but it basically cements Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa as the Flash and Aquaman moving into James Gunn's universe. Like, they
And that
are
was something that
the
was made
same.
after the fact with James Gunn, correct?
Correct. Yes, absolutely. And they ended up with Michael Keaton was amazing in this movie. Like, it was really fun seeing him, hearing that Batman soundtrack from Tim Burton's masterpiece
Mhm.
playing as they approach the mansion.
Danny
From
Elfman.
Yep, yep. And from what I understand, I was reading something. Kevin Smith had said if the Flash was successful, they were going to move into doing a Batman Beyond film, which could have been cool. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but it does sound like it would have been really cool. And Michael Keaton is at that age where he could have played a really good older and hurt Bruce Wayne.
That doesn't look like it's going to be the case now because everything DC is putting out there is going to be a flop. So I'm asking you this, my friend, with Black Adam, Shazam, and now The Flash disappointing at the box office. Is it time to go in a new direction with all this other stuff that they had planned over the course of the next year, year and a half or so? I know the Joker 2, that's going to come out. I also know that the Batman 2, those were the two hits of the past 4 years or so that you might want to keep on the slate. But is everything else just needs to be just set aside so that James Gunn can already go ahead and start a universe and see if it's going to live or die or be a success or fail?
You know, it's weird. I was thinking about this. I am actually really excited for Blue Beetle. I saw a trailer for that during the Flash.
That
Looks
that
great.
that's coming in August, but that's also that was something that was going to be set up for Max television, but
Mhm.
it tested and screened so well that they thought let's put this out in the theaters and see if it sticks.
Yeah, as for Aquaman, I think that it would be a better idea to release something in the James Gunn universe first and then release Aquaman, seeing how he is part of the James Gunn universe moving forward. That way you're not creating this thing where you're like there is so much uncertainty right now between the Flash and Superman Legacy, I think it was called.
Mhm.
There's just a lot of we're in a very like weird space here, so it would make more sense to put Aquaman after Superman, and then that kind of will create that continuity and remove that feeling of pointlessness that you might have from going to see Aquaman. And let's be honest, like the first one was fun, but it was not great, you know?
I don't blame you a bit for saying that. The Aquaman movie, which earned over $1 billion at the box office, obviously the sequel is supposed to have those kind of expectations. But what if that fails? What if that disappoints at the box office? Just because, like we were talking about, my friend, even though those after screen credits have Aquaman, even though he has said there's a possibility that he could become Lobo instead of Aquaman, it kind of makes it going back and forth. Again, does it make Aquaman 2 irrelevant when we see it?
Well, so as far as like the Lobo rumors go, I don't think that because right now they have cemented him as Aquaman, like in the coming film. So it would be weird to have him do that, but also
That's something though that's reported that he wanted to do. Remember, he actually went on social
right,
media and all that.
right. Yes, he did say he wanted to do it, but it wasn't confirmed. It would be cool if he did,
He
but
came out
and
of the DC Warner Brothers studios so excited about something that that
mhm,
would change forever. Blah 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 blah.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think that with the Flashpoint, it's not smart to release any films in between the Flash and Superman. I just think that's not a good idea. Those movies should be shifted and Blue Beetle, Aquaman should be moved after a release in the James Gunn universe. Because
Okay.
yes, it does create a feeling of pointlessness. Why am I here?
And that's something I think that's they need to be aware of, going forward for all the stuff that they're bringing out over the next 2, 3 years until they get to the James Gunn stuff is the fact that everything that is going to be upcoming in the DC universe may seem irrelevant. Even the Constantine reboot or the Constantine delayed, much wanted and desired by many of us out there that actually saw it, even though the movie itself didn't do great numbers.
Mhm.
With Keanu Reeves, there could be a possibility there's no longer a need or desire for that movie because that movie hasn't even been filmed yet, even though it's still planned out. After the results from the Flash, that movie and some other projects could be in peril as well.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, fortunately for a movie like Constantine, Joker 2, Batman 2, like those movies are pretty good at being able to be self-contained. Um, but yeah, they really. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but they really need to nail this like Superman movie on the head if they want to save, if they want anybody to care anymore.
And I agree with you on that. You have been a much bigger fan of the Superman movies than I have. In fact, I'm not even just very fond of the Superman character as a whole. Although Henry Cavill, as it trended towards the end of his time with Superman, I really started to think, I could deal with this,
Mhm.
mustache issues aside. Ben Affleck, I actually kind of like Ben Affleck, and I hear he is actually good in The Flash as
Mhm.
well in his limited role there. I'm going to miss seeing him as far as on the screen in that role as well. I'm just thinking that maybe not all these moves are good ones that are be upcoming in the DC universe.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, and it as is apparent in the Flash basically gives you a chance to say goodbye to Ben Affleck. You get a chance to say goodbye to Gal Gadot, but you don't get a chance to say goodbye to Henry Cavill, which leads me to believe that a lot of these like changes,
Hmm.
it's due to studio ego. Like it really is. Like these people, the fans really loved these characters, and the studios don't like it when the fans know best. So they, especially when it comes to Henry Cavill. So it is. I think a lot of the mix up is studio ego, and I mean I could be wrong, but that's just what it feels like from just the way that the story has unfolded over the past couple of years.
So some disappointing numbers indeed for the Flash, and not to mention Elemental, which also had what the lowest per dollar valued opening of a Pixar movie ever at the box office, and I'm very sad to see that. And
It's a very ninja release though. Like nobody really
yeah.
knew that this was coming out.
Well, the one I didn't know about is the Teenage Kraken movie that's coming out next week alongside Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I had no idea until I actually said, and you know me, I try to keep on at top of everything.
Mhm.
That I didn't even know about until I sat and watched Spider-Man into the Across the Spider-Verse the other day at the theaters, and I saw a trailer for it, and I'm like, oh, when is this coming out?
When did
On
this
the
happen?
30th. Yeah, and that's not like that's the kiss of death right there for a movie to be sent out like that. Okay, whatever. And then you have again Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse doing great numbers once again for a movie everybody seems to like and enjoy. I think this movie was Spider-Man really the Marvel. I guess you could say Marvel, even though it's Sony Marvel. Marvel really got the jump on DC this time around with the superhero movies.
Yeah, it's true, and they've always kinda had that spot too with, Snyder's Justice League cut, like, it that seemed like it was going to be a turning point, and
Hmm.
then, all the studio stuff started happening, and whatever, like, climb up the ladder they were about to have, the ladder was shattered, so now I don't foresee unless, again, this James Gunn Superman movie is amazing coming out the gates. I don't know how they're going to compete in this race.
Tell you what, though, my friend, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen later on with the DC universe and how it shapes out. But we want to hear your thoughts on why The Flash disappointed at the box office, Elemental as well. And hopefully, there'll be some movies on the way that actually do a little bit better at the box office. But tell us your thoughts on where we stand with the DC universe. Share us your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's still much more to talk about on today's program. I wanted to ask you when it comes to this weekend, another game release, because video games are still hot off the press when it
It's
comes to
been
the
an
news.
amazing year with games. Let's
Yeah,
just like it's been almost overwhelming. Remember we said 2017 was like big releases. This is
2017. Yes.
mhm.
Th-
This
This
is
will
like 10 times more than that.
this will probably end up being a top five video game year in history. And I could tell already, like you said, 2017 was outstanding. 2007 still head and shoulders for
Mhm.
not only the amount of releases, but also the amount of influential releases that influence the gaming industry for the next decade plus.
Yeah.
So to me, 2007 still is number one, but this is shaping up to be a fantastic year.
Yep.
And it just got a little bit better for PlayStation fans as Final Fantasy 16 hits shelves and also digital downloads this weekend. So, my friend, as someone who is totally confused by and always has been by the overarching themes and overarching storylines, if there is any, with Final Fantasy, and just cannot understand why Square Enix just has no desire to do things in a chronological fashion all the time. It just seems like they just throw a number or they just throw out a game and they just throw Final Fantasy in front of it and there you go. Because it's such a brand name, it's such a brand existent that people will buy it just because it says the word Final Fantasy. But with Final Fantasy 16, it's getting some really solid reviews. Again, with the confusion aside in regards to Final Fantasy 7 and the remake and the, which is different from the Final Fantasy 7 Reborn that's going to come out later. again, again, just kind of confusing again. But I want to ask your thoughts on Final Fantasy 16 as it enters the gaming space this weekend.
So I am actually very excited. I have not played the demo yet because I don't want to spoil the experience when the game comes out. So I'm going to pick my copy up tomorrow. But yeah, I mean the reviews across the board have been pretty solid for this one. This is actually supposed to revolutionize the Final Fantasy franchise as being like the first um action oriented battle system that we have in the game. So the combat was actually made by the director of Devil May Cry, which is very very fast paced, stylistic battles, and that's something that we're all looking forward to. The story is very dark, very mature, kind of. If you look at it, kind of outlines like some of the social political struggles that we're dealing with today. Um, of course, like every Final Fantasy revolves around a crystal and people fighting over the crystal and the power that it has. So that is kind of an overarching theme. I don't know too much about the story except again they're fighting over a crystal, but the combat does look amazing. The summons look really cool. Just like the tone of the game makes it look like it has grown up tremendously, especially compared to Final Fantasy 15, which was just buddies on a road trip. And that game suffered from being released incomplete, having a lot of the DLCs canceled, and just not coming out to amazing fanfare.
This one has an 88 Metacritic score as of press time today, which is obviously a great score. So it's very highly thought of in the world of Final Fantasy. And you talk about having more action, which is again, in our long discussions in regards to Final Fantasy over the years, I've said for me as a stopper right there is fact is that it was an RTS. It really de-emphasized action and consistent fluid action in the gameplay. And now it has evolved to the point where action is becoming a major part of the gameplay. It has not gotten to a full third person actioneer yet, but it seems like Final Fantasy is trending in that direction, whether fans may like it or not.
Yeah, and every game has been moving more and more in that direction. I think Final Fantasy X was like the last fully turn-based Final Fantasy entry. Then there's 12 and 13, 15. Like each of these games slowly have evolved into more action-oriented gameplay. And finally, I think that we are here. I always look at action, what do you call it, like action RPGs, action games. I look at Devil May Cry as being the pinnacle of that because the fighting is so cool, it's so smooth, it's stylistic, it looks beautiful. And from what I've seen in the demos and the videos online, like they have hit the nail on the head with this.
Well,
And
that's
the
good.
story, because the story is absent of Tetsuya Nomura, this looks like it might be the first understandable Final Fantasy in years.
And that's something that might interest me because the cohesiveness of this whole overarching Final Fantasy has been probably a reason why I do not want to go ahead and be a part of it, because of the fact that there's just where do you start? Where do you get into it?
Right.
Where is exactly? So this may be a good starting point for people like myself that have wanted to stay away from the turn-based action, which might have appeared slower to many out there. So I'm
Yeah.
just saying that it's something that, though Final Fantasy is one of the biggest brand names in the gaming industry. So I'm very happy that Final Fantasy 16 is getting the kind of love that it is.
Yeah, and so let me just put this out there. The Final Fantasies, none of them are connected. They're all different games. Like I don't
That's the part of the problem to me.
Yeah, and there's this I don't know what the obsession is with the numbered entries, the Roman numerals. I think they need to just drop those completely because it does make the game franchise seem inaccessible, right? Because like you said, you don't know where to start. So I do think that they need to just go back to Final Fantasy 1 and then say like Final Fantasy Journey of the whatever, do little subtitles instead of numbers, or just reboot the numbers completely. But
A
yeah,
la Mortal Kombat.
right, exactly. I think the biggest thing Final Fantasy has suffered from over the years is having these convoluted storylines. Like I said, Tetsuya Nomura, who is directing the Final Fantasy remakes, he is, I don't know, like he in his head, I'm sure a lot of this stuff makes sense. But if you've played Kingdom Hearts, this person's heartless and that person's heartless. This person's heartless is heartless. Like none of it makes any sense. And by the time you get to the end of the game, you're like, oh, okay. I mean, that happened, but I don't trace why any of this happened. And that's kind of what's happening in Final Fantasy, especially Final Fantasy Remake. And but I guess it looks cool, and that's the thing that is cool about it. It's just nostalgia. But yeah, I don't know. I think that they do need to move away from the numbers, try to make the game more accessible, because as the more and more entries come out, you're gonna see the younger fans that have been playing it, they're growing up, and you're not going to get younger ones in there because of exactly what you said. You don't know where to start, and the numbers are very intimidating.
Plus, the turn base is a very segmented audience these days. Turn base back in when you started playing Final Fantasy, or late 1990s, when the Final
Revolutionary.
Fantasy, yeah, that was something that people were very interested in. But again, we're seeing more with, I don't know how you would say, the Souls games. I
Hmm.
guess it's now one of the more leaned upon, more enduring, more interesting styles of gameplay, no matter what the difficulty spike is. People
Yeah.
seem to be more interested in that type of format. And I'm looking at right now all the images on screen. I'm looking at gameplay as we're talking about this, and this seems more like it's down that road, and that they've learned that they might want to go ahead and go this direction for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, exactly. And the great thing about like the Souls-like games is the game only stops when you die. And
Mhm.
in some of the older Final Fantasies, a turn-based, the game stops every time you fall into a battle. This Final Fantasy 16 looks great because the game only stops when you die. Like you're just going from one place to another. There's no separate battle screens. Um, the active battle system is just that it's active.
I
You
don't have
go
to
into
put
battle.
this person here over there. Meaning my direction to go over here for
Mhm.
whatever weapon I'm using, or that, just the time and detail. Sometimes I would see, as far as streams or players over the years, and play the Final Fantasy games, and they would take like 5 minutes, 10 minutes of setup just for it to go ahead and then go through the sequence of the actual battle. And it's just like, I want to go in there and just flail away or use my magic or whatever. And
Right.
that's why really was the main reasons why I could not ever get into the Final Fantasy series. But it looks like that has changed.
Yeah, so this is definitely it looks like a good getting on board point if you're someone who's been interested in the Final Fantasy games, or interested enough to like watch it and been like, "Oh, maybe one day I'll play it." This looks like it's going to be the one that you've been waiting for.
What are your thoughts out there on Final Fantasy 16 as it comes to the PlayStation? And obviously, everybody's excited about that. And I think that now is the time for anyone out there that may be interested in the Final Fantasy series that has been hesitant to do so because of its gameplay style needs to take a look at FF16. It's scoring great, and it looks like it's going to be a big hit on the PlayStation. So, what are your thoughts out there on Final Fantasy 16? Let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, 1/2 hour down, 1/2 hour to go here at the PCC Multiverse. Thanks so much for watching, listening. Truly appreciate it. And I guess video games is still on the mind, like we talked about. Again, we just talked about Final Fantasy 16. We had all those great video game announcements and updates, totaling about, I think, 500 over the past few weeks. So, what did we need, Josh? Mr. Josh the Legend 16? We needed another.
More games.
Yeah, more games announced because Nintendo didn't have their say until they decided they waited until everybody finished what they were doing, and they said, "Okay, our turn," with their monthly direct. And they did come out with a little bit stronger Nintendo Direct than normal in June. Nintendo's Direct, but it was still, comparatively speaking, compared to the Xbox and maybe even the Summer Game Fest, I think both those had a little bit better showcases, but I think this was better than the PlayStation showcase. That's for sure, my friend. What are your initial thoughts before we round off and talk about some of the major announcements during that? What are your thoughts on the Nintendo Direct and how it measured up against the other big conferences and showcases? I'm not talking about all the other showcases because, oh man, there were dozens of showcases, the big showcases on display in the past few weeks.
I It was pleasantly surprising. As far as like how it stacks up against the others, I think that this one was very satisfying. Like I we went into this, everyone always wants, three things, right? They want a new Donkey Kong, they want a new Metroid, and they want a new Mario. Here we got what, 4 or 5 new Mario announcements. We got an announcement for a 2D plus remake of Star Ocean Second Story, Pikmin 4. Like there was a lot of things that really just came out of left field, and we're getting a lot of those games. This is where they top those other conferences. They gave us stuff with dates of this year, and I'm excited about that. Mario RPG has the turn-based combat, but it looks really cool, right? We saw the way that Mario comes to life and he's jumping over things, and you have that cool looking battle screen. I don't know. I am excited. I still need to finish Tears of the Kingdom, but like this stuff, man, like my stack of games is going to steadily grow before the year's over.
So let me go and let everybody know the big reveal was a Super Mario Brothers Wonder. It's a 2D Mario adventure. That's the first 2D Mario adventure, the side scroller adventure to appear on a Nintendo platform, brand new like this in well over a decade. And it's coming out in October. And I know what I saw looked pretty good. And I know a lot of people are going to enjoy that. I know Super Mario RPG, like you were talking about, a remake of it is announced for this year as well for November. So you're getting back to back Mario in successive months. You're also getting some Detective Pikachu and Detective Pikachu 2. That's something that I think that caught people by surprise. You're also talking about the third party stuff when it concerns Metal Gear Solid collection, the Batman Arkham Asylum collection. Those were good stuff that was announced, but it was the Nintendo stuff that caught my eye, like the WarioWare Move It is going to bring the micro games as far as the party to that, as far as the micro game stuff to Switch, the mini game stuff to the Switch in November. You also got, like you said, Pikmin 4. If you're really into the Pikmin series, Pikmin is going to go ahead and be what I think available for a demo on the 28th of this month, and it's going to be July 21st is going to be coming out. So a lot of good stuff. Even Pokemon, it's got some stuff going down, not only with Pikachu 2, but also as well with Scarlet and Violet getting DLC, and Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Kart 8, two of their biggest hits ever, also are getting DLC as well.
Yeah, and the announcement that they're working on a Princess Peach centered video game, which I don't know about you, but I'm intrigued by this
Well,
because
she was such a big part of the movie, that's not surprising.
right, but everyone has always said, "Man, she should have her own game," but no one has ever specified like what that game should be like. So I'm really curious to know like what does that look like? It sounds fun, but will it be?
I'm pretty sure it will. I'm pretty excited for that. I think a lot of people were really high on what Princess Peach's character was doing in the Super Mario Brothers movie and how big a heroine she was in the movie and how important she was to the overall film on that. So I'm really happy that she's getting her own game finally. Luigi's also getting a remaster of Dark Moon, Luigi's Mansion. That'll be coming out, but again, some really good announcements. The third part announcements are they're there, hit and missed, and some old packages that are just being repackaged up for the Switch audience. That seems to be always with Nintendo the problem, except for the Wii. The Wii third parties found the Wii and loved the Wii, whether we liked it or not, with all the shovelware involved. But the Nintendo Switch, for all the 100 million plus units it's sold and all the things it's done for as far as the first party side, the third party side in this Nintendo Switch generation, even after today's Nintendo Direct, I think is still somewhat lacking.
Yeah, this is true. I remember working at Best Buy when the Wii came out, and like Xbox and PlayStation 3 had maybe 2 to 3 releases every week, whereas I was putting out 10 games plus a week on the Nintendo Wii, putting them out on the shelves. This the Switch definitely is not anywhere close to that. I think a lot of the stuff gets kind of like a shadow release on the Nintendo Switch marketplace, and a lot of it goes on sale pretty quick. But yeah, you don't see a lot of that, especially in like physical releases.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, I am interested in exactly what's going on. As the owner of a Switch, I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming up, including the speaking of third parties, you have Just Dance 2024. I just got 2023 for my girls. And they absolutely love it at a discounted price. So 2024 coming out. I don't know if that's going to be better because 2023 has a nice song set. So we'll see what happens there. But some interesting stuff, outside of Nintendo's first party stuff. But again, to me, I think, when you see the usual suspects alongside the first party games, whether it be a Zelda or a Mario, you usually see a Sonic game, which was announced alongside as far as Sonic Superstars. That's coming to the Nintendo Switch. Persona 5, Tactica, that's coming to the Switch. Mario and Rabbids, Splatoon 3, some of the usual standbys. It'd be nice to see if we could see something that, on a third party standpoint, would be really surprising to see something out of the box. Like, let's say, like Call of Duty, or let's say something like, just some type of third party killer game that's on the other big systems that would get a release on the Nintendo Switch.
I would love to see. I know a while back, Phil Spencer was talking with the CEO of Nintendo about getting Games Pass on the Switch. That would be huge.
That would be absolutely. That would be something very, very intriguing per se. I mean, all the different platforms that Games Pass is already on, which is actually, unfortunately for everybody out there, I do have to give the news that Games Pass is going to get a price hike of a couple dollars a month for most areas around the world. Plus, also in a lot of areas around the world, the Xbox Series X is also going up in price as well. So that's not exactly the best news I want to go ahead and correlate, but it is happening in the not too distant future as they announced today. So, other than that, I would love to see the Games Pass go on that because we already see it on other platforms, televisions, computers. It'd be
Right.
great to see Games Pass go on a platform that has over 100 million sold.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody's really buying Switches anymore. And I think that putting the Games Pass on the Switch could see an increase in console sales, at least until the new Switch comes out.
Are you sure no one's buying Switches anymore? I know the sales are not what they used to be. I mean, now that they've
It's
plateaued, but
it's not they're not buying them as frequent as they used to. Like I know people bought a lot when the Zelda Switch came out, but that's because it has a collector's value to it.
okay, fair enough. But I do think that there is still a little bit of life left in the Switch. And I think that obviously, as far as on the software end, especially for Nintendo, they're going to bring out the Super Mario Brothers Worlds and also, the Super Mario RPG remake. And I think those are going to do gangbusters. Plus, Zelda is doing tremendously on that platform. So I think on the software side, there's still plenty of time left for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good holiday season coming up here.
Oh, no doubt indeed. But we want to hear your thoughts on the June Nintendo Direct. Was it everything you were hoping for? Was it everything that you wanted? Was it everything that you needed to see? Or did you want something more? I still wanted something more, especially on the third party side. But overall, I thought it was okay. Thought it was pretty good. And I thought it delivered what it needed to deliver because the fact is, a lot of these games, the majority of these games, are coming out this year, all had dates, or excuse me, most had dates on them for this year. So that's really a big plus for Nintendo, that it has the advantage over PlayStation and Xbox. So we want to hear your thoughts on how well Nintendo did for its June Nintendo Direct. Please let us know. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we head on out, I know you have some great things to say about, some stuff that you're doing at the Happy Hoarder, but I wanted to mention that also this weekend on FX is a show which if you haven't seen it before, it's in season 2. It's called The Bear. I know it isn't the title kind of is different than what the series is actually all about. It's actually was based in a restaurant as far as a kind of like a slash dramedy slash sitcom. Is actually thought of very well last year in its first season, highly acclaimed, actually in Emmy consideration in several categories. Season 2 is actually trending at a 90 on Metacritic. Have you had a chance to see or check out or hear anything as far as The Bear is concerned for season 2, which takes it a little bit out of the restaurant, but still right there as far as good stuff according to the critics?
I don't know if it was you, but somebody had recommended this show to me, and I just hadn't had a chance to sit down and watch it. It might have been you, but I'm not sure. But yeah, it's on my radar, but I haven't seen any of it, but I've heard great things.
It's been really highly rated. I haven't a chance to check it out either, but I've mentioned on the show before about how highly rated it is. So I know it's probably going to be an easy watch if I burn through it. And with the writer strike going on, unless I guess doc TV that's not live or not reality based is going to be something that's not if you're looking for dramas, if you're looking for comedies, if you're looking for stuff that's not live or reality based, I think that you're going to be finding a lot harder and harder stuff to find. So that'll give you more of an opportunity to go ahead and check out stuff like The Bear. So I'm hoping people give The Bear a chance because, again, it is really highly rated. And as stuff is being thrown at Josh here, I really think that The Bear might be something that a lot of people, yeah, there you go. Absolutely. But yes, a lot of people might want to look into. But yeah, The Bear is one of those under the radar hits, I think, for FX. And I think that when the Hulu Disney Plus merger finally happens, where it's a one-stop shop later this year, I think a show like The Bear is going to take really a lot of good advantages from it, as far as many more eyes on it than what was really first anticipated.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what else is I'm really looking forward to is Justified City. I think it's City of Angels or City of Demons, one of the two, but the new Justified show looks really cool.
Yeah, just a Justified City Primeval, I think it's
City
called.
Primeval, yeah, but
Yeah.
that one's also on I think it's on Hulu, right? Because Hulu's now
Yes.
on FX, or FX is
Yes.
now on Hulu. So yeah,
Yes.
also looks very good. Before we check on out here though, I want to ask you, have you and the kids been watching the new Demon Slayer episodes?
No, it's really hard to get a hold of. That's on Hulu, correct?
It's on Crunchyroll.
It's on Crunchyroll. See, that's again that's been hard, but I will get my daughter up to speed on it. She was such a huge fan, but I guess what happened with COVID and that kind of delayed things. It kind of like it didn't disinterest her from Demon Slayer, but it kind of waned her interest on it. And I'm hoping that maybe, like you said, a new season of episodes that maybe she and I can check out will get her back into it.
Yeah, it's a very well done anime series, and it's not one of those ones that overstays its welcome,
Hmm.
and the story is very captivating. So yeah, definitely check those out. It's on Crunchyroll. You can get a free preview of Crunchyroll. I think it's like 14, 15 days, and you'll have access to all those. But yeah, definitely check it out. A lot of great things on TV recently.
Well, I'm looking forward to it as well, my friend. It is, of course, Demon Slayer, so I'm looking forward to checking out, and The Bear on FX, which will also be on Hulu. So go ahead and check out those great shows today. Looking forward to catching up with it. And if you have any thoughts, please let us know. Popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, got just a few minutes left in our show. Truly appreciate you stopping by. It's Josh Peterson, aka Josh the Legend, the 16th of the Happy Hoarder, and also as well, me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening. But before we head on out, I set some time aside so you can explain this to me, my friend. I've told you before that one of the best jobs I've ever had was when I was running game stores in the year 2007, 2008 for Game Crazy, which was
Hmm.
a competitor to GameStop, and it was aligned with Hollywood Video. And we all know what happened to both of those companies as far as that's concerned, with the video era dying a very big death with the advent of Netflix and streaming video and all that. But I wanted to go ahead and tell you that at the time I was selling all those great things at the store. And little did I know that they would just increase in value for a great deal of it exponentially, which seemingly has me mad to this day about what I should have saved and what I should have traded in or sold, which kind of irks me out. But one of the things is that I handled on a regular basis was the dying days of the GameCube, which at that time was thought of as an afterthought, with the Wii popularizing itself at that point in time. The GameCube was the predecessor that nobody really cared about at that time, and the games with it were like very low in value. The system itself was very low in value. Well, lo and behold, over a decade later, after the final games have been made for the GameCube, and the GameCube in the collecting community, as everything in the video game community and industry spiked heavily during COVID and that type of era at around 2019, 2020, 2021. Along with it, not only was the GameCube revived as far as a brand or as far as an interest, it has grown as far as the value of it in many of its games and its systems exponentially itself. Of any of the systems from the past, whether it's the Genesis, NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever, seems to me that the GameCube is getting more love than ever from collectors. I've seen it all over YouTube. I've seen it all over as far as on the websites. Price charting has just increased value on GameCube. What makes the GameCube so endearing to collectors now?
So it's funny because even before COVID, like GameCube games were relatively expensive. But yeah, with the mixture of COVID and
They weren't in
um,
my time when I was selling them. I can tell you that for sure.
right, right. But then you had, like you said, you had COVID, and then you had the that sealed copy of Mario 64 that sold for some ridiculous number in the millions of dollars.
Yes.
And that, I think, those two things combined brought a lot of attention to the GameCube. And from that point on, that has created this new wave of set collectors. So people who are collecting the set of GameCube or Nintendo 64, whatever. And then you add on to that the fact that Nintendo has become sacred ground, right? Ever since the WADA grading community has flourished, you have that compacting all of that. So there's a lot of elements working in favor of the GameCube. And there's also just the fact that with GameCube games, they didn't make as many of each game as they did with like the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, because you see, a lot of the games that the value of games is usually based on like how many copies are in circulation,
Yeah.
and GameCube does not have a lot of copies of each of the games in circulation.
It's a
Like, sure,
little
you could.
over 20 million GameCube systems were sold worldwide.
Right,
before
exactly.
it discontinued in 2007.
Yeah, and there's only so many of them, and as you know, like we said, COVID and all that not good stuff, but all that stuff happened. You have more and more GameCube consoles and games being taken off of the market and kept in private collections. So that's creating a scarcity for it, and that is also causing the value of these games to go up. So sure, yeah, you can find them on eBay, but unless people start selling off their collections here soon, which usually happens. Game collecting is very cyclical, but you're going to see less and less of these games on the market as the years go on. Like you can already go on and find, computer games from the 80s and 90s are hard to find. You'll find where like an Xbox game, you can find 10 pages of listings for it. A Microsoft MS DOS game, whatever, you'll look at it and you only see maybe like 2 or 3 listings if you're lucky for them. And that, I think, is the territory that the GameCube stuff is heading into. Like even Nintendo 64, a lot of that stuff's getting hard to find too.
Well, it's interesting because, I see a lot of them now these days. Like I'm looking through our good friends at Retro City Games. You go through their catalog or just their social media and you see, for instance, the graded games. Some of the most valuable graded games they have are GameCube games. Some of the most valuable or some of the most watched or interested posts that they make are on GameCube. And it's just, as far as the numbers of people actually reviewing it and looking at it, one of their biggest posts ever that they ever made was a couple weeks ago. And this is talking about their entire history. They've been now open, not 10 years, mind you, but 7, 8 years already.
Mhm.
One of their biggest posts of all time was when they got in over 500 Nintendo GameCube games and they put that on display together. I know because my nephew just bought a couple of them off that stack. So I want to hear your thoughts on this, my friend, because the demand for Nintendo GameCube, you see all these YouTube collectors that's so much a part of the scene in the YouTube industry right now, as far as video game collectors going to whether it's pawn shops or thrift stores or Goodwills or whatever, trying to look for GameCube games because of the value that they have. It's just amazing to see how much of a beloved system now that it is, more so than it ever was during its entire tenure that it was alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. And as they're disappearing from the market, you're seeing this hysteria being built up around it. Like, oh my gosh, if I don't get this now, I'll never be able to own it. So I think that's a big factor. Same thing with Sega Saturn games. Like those are slowly becoming more and more scarce because people want them. Like there's a fear of not being able to find them anymore.
It's just interesting to see this demand over a system that I couldn't get rid of. I couldn't
Mhm.
give away in 2007. I seriously could not give it away because, again, it was a system that was actually already out the door in 2007. So it's just amazing to see what kind of reception it's getting now.
Yeah. Hey, but wait though. I mean, look at 10 years from now, right? We're moving into this all digital future, which I'm not a big fan of, as I've said before, but
Really, I've never heard
um,
you say that.
I will not go silently. But you look at this, and I guarantee you that even the lowest grade of Xbox 360 games will be valued at least $10.
I think the 360 is getting more love from collectors right now than the original Xbox per se, which is kind of disappointing to me. I know the Xbox 360 is, a great system and actually turned out to be a much better system than people thought. Red Rings of Death aside, but I still think that of all the systems of the past 20 years that is not getting any love, that I believe should get some love, I think the original Xbox is the one I think that's getting the least amount of love, and I'm kind of disappointed by that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's only a matter of time. Like, game collecting is very cyclical. Like, Sega Genesis was hot for a while. GameCube, anything Nintendo will always be desired. But there's Sega Saturn, PS1 games were valued very highly for a while. Some of them still are. I think that the original Xbox will have its time in the sun. You just gotta wait.
Okay. But speaking of GameCube, head on over to happyhoardercollectibles.com. Go ahead and pick up Over the Hedge, please, for Josh. And
It's my
yes,
last GameCube game left.
all right, fair enough indeed. But my friend, it's been a great episode. But before we head on out, if you have any questions on why or beliefs why the GameCube is a major collecting item for collectors out there, please go ahead and let us know why. Your thoughts on why the GameCube is now so popular amongst collectors at popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But my friend, before we head on out, I wanted to go ahead and give you plenty of time to give everyone an update on what's going on with the Happy Hoarder. You talked about your newest venture for the Happy Hoarder. A lot of great stuff going on. People got to keep up, especially if they want some good things and good collectibles from the Happy Hoarder.
That's right. Well, as always, you can follow us on social media. Every like counts because that helps us get into conventions, especially the bigger ones. But we just started streaming on Whatnot. You can follow us at Happy Hoarder Collectibles, and always check out the website at www.happyhoardercollectibles.com. And I'm going to be, I know I said this last time, but I'm in the process of working on a pre-order section on the website, so you can pre-order the newest Funko Pops, Marvel Legends, DC Multiverse stuff. And yeah, just keep an eye out. Again, if you follow the social media pages, that's the best place to see what we're up to. We started doing some unboxing videos. We got some Bandai Union Union Arena Demon Slayer cards in. So I have a video of my kids opening a couple packs of those, kind of seeing what's inside. We're gonna do more of those as we get more trading cards in. But yeah, definitely check us out. Any type of support you can give is great, whether that's just a follow on social media or a purchase on the website. We're incredibly grateful for any of it.
Absolutely. And they can go ahead and check it out today. I am checking out right now happyhoardercollectibles.com. You go ahead and find all the things that you want to go ahead and find in the world of pop culture and collectibles, action figures, comic books, video games, trading cards, and even some DVD and Blu-ray, which to me, what's the market like for DVD and Blu-rays? It seems to be mixed. I mean, depending on the movie or TV show that you're looking for, it seems to be really a maybe of where for every one thing that hits with collectors, there's probably 100 that just don't seem to matter.
Right. Yeah. So for DVDs and Blu-rays, I've told myself I will only carry superhero stuff because people always want to see that stuff. And I try to keep my prices below, what an Amazon Prime rental would cost. And anime is something that always sells though. Like I got seasons of Dragon Ball that, I've been selling like it's going out of style.
Tell you what, though, if you ever find one of my favorite shows from the early century of this century, it's a very valued, I guess, if you find the right seasons for it, MXC, which appeared on Spike TV
Oh yeah.
earlier in the century. Those are known to be extremely valuable. So if you find any when you're out and about rummaging through or looking for that next deal, I'll just give you a heads up, my friend, and everybody out there. MXC is something that's really valued. And even though you could catch it today, there's actually even one, I guess, what's one of the Tubi channels or one of the channels that if you have all those extra 100, 200 extra free channels, whatnot, there's actually a devoted MXC channel or and even a Twitch channel to MXC. Doesn't matter. If you find the DVD or Blu-ray of it, it's extremely valuable. So I wanted to give you a heads up on that, my friend. So
That's exactly what we need. More MXC.
oh man, I tell you what, talk about politically incorrect. Yeah. I was actually catching some episodes on Freevee. Freevee, that's the one that is also on as well. And it's, it just reminded me of some good times and how, yes, how politically incorrect it is, but how funny it is at times. And it reminds me of the best of Wipeout. If
Hmm.
everybody loved Wipeout, but is actually took it a step further as far as the comedy is concerned. So yeah,
Yeah.
give that a shot. Always a great thing to see. If you put the politically incorrect stuff aside, you can go ahead and check it out and enjoy it and let us know your thoughts right here at popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But my friend, a great episode. But any last thoughts before we head on out?
Not really. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm looking forward to the holiday season as we get more games coming out, more movies.
Mhm.
As far as pop culture is concerned, like it's going to be a crazy stretch from here to the end of the year. So I don't think there's going to be any downtime when it comes to that. But yeah, it was fun being back in the multiverse.
Absolutely. Great to have you here, my friend. Don't worry, everyone. Melinda's going to be back on the multiverse next week. Who knows? She might even be on the cosmos. She might switch places with Josh for next week as well. So she might end up being on the Monday show, depending on when I can catch up to her. So we'll see what happens. But Josh, great to have you here, my friend. As always, Pop Culture Cosmos is nothing without you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been quite the ride through the cosmos over the years.
Absolutely, indeed. And I hope many more years to come for both of us right here in the pop culture cosmos. So, for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great